All right, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to ASQ 2022. This is actually our January meeting. It's outside the box problem solving. Our presenter tonight is Mr. Bob Funk, who is very active in ASQ, not only in the Lafayette area, but was active in the Milwaukee area and now down in the Indy area. We'll be doing our presenting. Just a few little things to clean up as we or prior to the presentation. We will be having a February meeting. It'll probably be closer towards the end of the month. And we're very close to securing a speaker for the March meeting as well. If anybody is out there that has something that they would like to hear about, or if you're actually an expert or just have good knowledge that other people might be interested in and would like to do a presentation or be a speaker, feel free to reach out and let us know. We are looking for a speaker either in April and possibly even May. So the more, the better. And so far, I have not had any topic presented to me that has not been relevant or that I have not been able to get some good information out of. And I've been attending, we're almost 10 years now, Bob?
At least.
I think so, somewhere around there. So always good presentations, always good things. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Bob Funk and let him begin his presentation.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity tonight. I presented this several times before, and it's always a fun presentation to me because it gets people thinking outside the box. This is creative problem solving. And during the presentation, there's going to be a section where I pass the baton to the audience. And we're going to get unique ideas that pop up that you guys are going to share with the group. So it's never the same. You're not learning any inside tricks from anywhere, but you're going to be thinking very, very differently outside the box. So kind of put things in perspective. We're having to work outside the box right now. This is what most offices look like in Lafayette and Indy today. Simply because, but everybody was probably still working from home, correct? With COVID, we've already started out of the box problem solving in a lot of a way with that alone. So, this has become a way of life. Little background on the presentation. This whole presentation is entirely trying to get everybody thinking outside of basic problem solving. It's time to think outside the box, even if you work in a cubicle. It's going to be interactive, like we said. And I've always enjoyed this, like I said, because I've never failed to see some great ideas come from the audience. Okay, so what do we mean by out of the box? Okay, we're going to start getting you thinking creative. So I'm going to show a slide next, and I'm going to ask you to stare at the two dolphins on the following slide. That's going to be them jumping out of the water for 10 seconds. You need to come up with 10 differences in 30 seconds. Everybody ready? Go. Okay, they're not dolphins. But how many times have we had to verify the facts on things that were the same when we're doing problem solving? So that's part of why I wanted to get you thinking outside the box with this radical picture. And have you also make sure you have the facts on what you're looking at and comparing and looking at that too. So hopefully this distraction gets you thinking outside the box, just like this creator of this picture did. But now let's go to a somewhat real problem. Okay. Everybody's heard of this problem, almost the same, where you're trying to get some animals across a river. Well, you got a man, a dog, a lion, and a rabbit. You're going to bring them across the river in the fewest trips possible, with no more than 2 in a boat at one time. Not the dog eating the rabbit or the lion eating the dog or the rabbit or whatever else might happen. We're going to make the false assumption as long as the man is with an animal in the boat, they want to attack or eat each other. So how do we get here? So my wife, as I was coming up with this slide years ago, came up with a better solution than I could think of. So she said, dogs and cats can swim. Why are you putting them in the boat? Put the dog in the water and let him swim to the other side. Put the line in the water next to the boat. It'll take persuasion to get any cat to swim, but you know, they don't have any options, they'll probably do it. Put the man in the boat with the rabbit and keep the pace faster than the lion. Oh, by the way, I didn't say whether we have a motor or not. If you've got it, use it so you can make sure that you're keeping a good pace. One trip. Okay. Really appreciated my wife when I was drafting this years ago that she saw this is much simpler. But this is how far outside of the box I want people to think tonight. Okay. So what is out of the box thinking? Why is it important? What's a little of the basics of existing traditional problem solving? And then out of the box methods. And then the audience challenge. Want to see your best ideas? We're going to also generate a whole bunch rapidly. And we'll have a little fun at the same time. Okay, so why is out of the box problem solving important? Well, you got a lot of the things you do today through it. What's a Kaizen Blitz? Well, it breaks down the barriers. We can't do that only in a week. Sure you can. You can do a lot. Design of experiments. We're smart enough to know what's important. Really? Have you tried DOE and have you really taken it seriously? You get some breakthroughs. Pheromones and effects analysis. You don't have to wait till the failures or the testing is done in order to identify a lot of the undesirable events. You can avoid those by doing this FME analysis, pheromones and effects analysis. It's not going to catch everything, but it's a very powerful tool. And continuous flow processes. You know, the whole concern there was it breaks down the barrier that if any one area fails, it'll take down the whole line, versus if one area is generating garbage, we can pull the handle and say, no, we don't have to scrap it. Downstream can, downstream can say halt. You don't build junk. So a lot of the tools of today, it's already there. Now, let's carry it further. Microwave oven. Who would have thought you could put paper in an oven but not metal? And you could cook in seconds. Okay, I'm old enough to know the difference on this one. Automobile. What's your fastest horse? Well, you keep a horsepower in the term, but it's not a horse. You know, cell phones. Who would have thought that people would prefer to text when they can have a real-time conversation on the phone? But hey, you have a paper trail, pardon the term paper, but you do have a text trail for follow-up. And then computers. I'm just amazed that Control-Alt-Delete would still catch on for starting a computer, and hitting start would catch on, turn it off. Took years to get a simple power button in Windows. Okay, just getting you thinking here. So what do we need to do for out-of-the-box problem solving? Challenge the constraints. Are the constraints really, truly constraints? What happens when you violate the constraints? You gotta be careful with it. But you do need to consider that. Can't I just also, a lot of times people have a program of that they have to follow instead of like a Six Sigma or a 8D or the various things. Depends on what you have. You have a whole tool set that you can use. Do you always have to follow a specific program, or can't you take the surgeon's knives, so to speak, and tools and grab what you need to solve the problem? Just one example. Okay. So a little on traditional problem solving methods, whether it's Six Sigma or it's 8D or any other kind of things, they generally have the same kind of a process here. And I'm adding one at the top, not everybody remembers it is done. First thing you got to do is identify and prioritize what you're going to work on, including goals. Now for each problem to be solved, you work through the following. You're going to need to define the problem, scoping it and quantifying it. A little bit of define and measure put together there. You got to analyze the problem, develop root cause analysis. I believe it's extremely important to see the problem if you can. Kind of a Toyota version of how important that is. And I couldn't emphasize that more. You're going to develop, validate, and implement solutions, but consider interim containment actions if it helps. You're going to iterate the process, monitor results of what you've done, try to meet goals, and share the results as lessons learned and celebrate success. So now, this is thinking a little out of the box here. I'm going to give you an example again. How you analyze data matters. Here's a practical example. Okay, things sure look like they're getting better, right? Our line rejects are dropping as you're looking here for this Apple processing defects. We're talking real apples, not Apple computers. Okay, so let's look a little closer though to see what the stack bar says underneath that. I'm not positive we're in great shape. We've got something emerging, it looks like to me. We got a bunch of things at the bottom there, you see, that are improving. But what in the heck is going on the visually unappealing? These are apples. You want to sell them? Now, if you don't think outside the box and look at your data like this, maybe you need to. It can be a real eye opener. Okay. And I call this actually, and I've run into this repeatedly. I call it the Pareto corollary or reverse Hawthorne effect. Hawthorne effect says when you work on something and you put focus on it, it improves somewhat, sometimes even before you even took a lot of actions on your own. However, when the cat's away, the mice will play. While you're working on that big thing, it just happens to not be unusual that you have other things grow as you're not paying as much attention. They don't have any Hawthorne effect. So what's the other key thing? You got to validate and control your fixes well, or some of these small problems can grow while you're trying to fix the big ones. Okay, super Pareto. With what we have today in terms of our computer capabilities, we can be looking at Paretos from all kinds of different angles. The whole 80-20 rule of saying, 80% is just from 20% of the items. You can really do a lot with that with super Pareto, which is the idea of saying it's like cut your data from about every angle you can imagine. Now, some of them may not apply. Figure it out, look at it. By doing that, you're going to get a chance to see things. It's an idea I just came up with kind of out of nowhere, but I feel like it's a really powerful one. And that can be put in dashboards too. So that way there you get an idea. You can be looking at all kinds of different models, all different products. Just one example of out of the box. Now this is one that's too often not followed too, and that is if it's not broken, don't fix it. That actually works a lot better than people will admit. Okay? You can build your product reputation off of your robust successes. You might need to take cost out of it, that's correct. However, again, look at how you can do it as well as you can with those things that are successful. Get a new set of eyes, another thing. Discuss the problem with somebody at your organization completely unfamiliar with the problem. It works. It just works. They aren't so close to it. I'm not going to jump to conclusions as much. They're going to ask some tough 5 why questions, and other issues as we work together, try to solve the problem. But let's springboard on this. Let's put a little further. I would be willing to bet nobody on this line has probably tried this trick. It's very interesting if you ever do. If you really got something you're stuck on and you need to get it fixed fast, think your maintenance department is having to do this on a daily basis? They're constantly having to fix things rapidly to keep the place alive. So think about actually discussing some of the problem with somebody in the maintenance departments. They're constantly doing this all day long, and they have to have a quick solution in most cases. Rate your successes too. Why are your small field problems small ones? Isn't it just as important to see what happens when products excel? Let's compare it to kids for a minute. Just the simple idea of it, it's like if you're only going to punish and never show what's right, is that going to teach the kids? Do it at work too. Now, rate your competitors' successes and failures as well, because that gives you some positional capability in the market. Other one is, when you have something that's really that important, think like it's an emergency. You're in an ambulance. Assess the facts rapidly. Rule out the most serious issues. Some are heart attacks, breathing, whatever it might be. Stabilize the situation. Get an emergency response action so you can make a rapid change. And think about actually an air traffic control center. It's effectively that kind of a situation. They have to act quickly, make sure they make the right decisions quickly. Well, there's times where this is exactly what you need to do, and it doesn't have to be always a safety or an emergency situation. You want to, if something is really causing a lot of trouble and it's been your top one in a Pareto, you might even be able to use this same approach to rapidly bang something out. Okay. The other one is looking at DOE a little bit differently. You always have to run the test. You may already have it through simulations. If your company is very powerful at simulations, they may be able to simulate a lot of these different variables. And at that point there, you're not really limited to the number of variables you have to throw into. You may be able to have as many as 25 variables, as an example. Years ago, this ASQ section had a Dr. Motter, as a book called Designing for Quality. I emphasize to anybody, if you want the Preschooler's Guide to DOE, best book on the market. He showed in there one of the things he suggested. If you don't have a clue where to start, go ahead and throw in variables and do what's called a fold over. And that is, you might literally have only one, maybe two of each of those in your matrix. But then do exactly the opposite. Where you were at a high position, you go to a low position. You're not going to get any interaction information, but you get very precise information on the individual variables. So then it may tell you what to look at further. Okay, also existing results. You already have the results. You have production testing and SPC tracking or various things. Then you can be careful on this one, because if you don't have the right information, you can't do it. However, you may still be able to get some things very close on it and get a lot out of it. Okay, so now we're going to look at a lot of different ways, and pretty radical in some cases, okay? Reviewing of shapes, and trying to see things that come up to your mind. And that often is a very key item, is literally looking at things that have some similarity, even if they're completely unrelated. I even give an example of a giraffe. Do you realize it has a booster pump as a second heart because it has such a long neck? Well, there's an example sitting right in front of you for possible solutions. How is it solved in the toy world? I know this sounds nuts, but a lot of the toys have the same problems. Anybody who's ever seen an old Polly Pocket, incredibly engineered. How did they get it to do all those crazy things? Well, that's saying, and so consistently, learning from some very, very good examples is powerful when you're making your products. Look at a good product in operation and compare it to a defective one. Now, tear them both down. See what's going on there. Now, the other one is learn from your threats. Competitors are stalking you all the time. They're looking at your weaknesses, and it may even show on the internet how they address your deficiencies. So really pay attention to this. And I'll kind of like this last one I just added recently from any previous presentation. It's like, well, how would James Bond handle it in the gadget shop? I know that sounds crazy, but have we noticed what we've been seeing lately with robots and the complexity of the things they can do? That may not be such a crazy idea, is to be thinking, you don't have a limit for now. Really think outside the box. Okay, and now everybody forgets about innovate often enough too. If you're just working on the root causes, you may not be thinking about how to simplify the product or completely different. Just like what we said here before, microwave energy. Who would have thought, like we said, that you would be able to heat things up faster with this? Train, you got an iron horse. The internet, come on. We have this communication and online stores now even. And then the one I find most humorous, and that is cheese, edible mold. Really? Those are very, very different kind of ideas, but they should get you thinking outside the box. Now, learn from your competitors' mistakes. Do your benchmarking studies that look at best practice also work at worst practice? I know there's this best of the best, worst of the worst. How far do you carry it? And do you actually take advantage of some of this comment? So you can look at a competitive advantages you have. Marketing department's going to love you if you go after this. Now, there's things you do at home that you do all the time, and you never do it at work. Why? The simplest one is everybody does simple pros and cons when you're looking at buying something. My wife and me have always made lists and things as we're looking at cars or houses particularly. Well, we like this, we don't like this, we do like this. So you always consider those. Do you do that when you're looking at a fix at work ever? Looking at pros and cons of the various ways to solve something or to develop a new product. It's powerful. Consumer Report has picked up on this. If you have the app for Consumer Report, you will see they don't just rate it anymore. They provide you the pros and cons of each one. That is fairly recent, I believe. but it's very helpful, very powerful. And another one here, let's look at better solutions. You've got your good, better, best. Pardon me making a Sears comment there for a second. They did this in the past. Well, next time you arrive at a solution, before you implement it, ask, how can it be a better solution? But I'm going to also challenge to say, and how can you make it a simpler solution? That drives costs down at the same time as you're getting a better product. Okay, replicating. Are you replicating your successes? Are you putting this across other divisions in standardization, product development, pretty much everywhere you can? Does your lessons learned system also have best practices? So one of them that's real easy to forget, while you're working on the big stuff, are you ignoring the other ones? Are you solving just, you're completely ignoring the apples. They're just hanging there. That's like, all I need to do is this to fix that problem. And as long as they're things that don't take a lot of time and away from the other, that is other stuff you don't have to deal with later. So it's something that is, as you're working on the 80-20 rule and working the Pareto on the big things, don't forget the easy picks. Those can get you a lot of bang for the buck. Sometimes you also find out, oh, that was a bigger solution than I thought it was. It's a win-win. Okay, now this is one that I have seen, and this is, we all have. Oh, no, we can't do this. It's too expensive. We don't have it in the budget. Can't do this at all. Have you really looked at your payback period? Even if it's a non-budgeted fix. Maybe it's shorter than you think. This idea came from actually a former CEO that I worked with. He had asked, well, what do you guys really need to do? He says, well, we really need to do this. This would solve the problem. He says, well, why haven't you given me that? We don't have it in the budget. There's no way we can do it. He says, what's the payback period? We get it pay back in about 9 months. He says, I want to see it on my desk tomorrow. What are you doing? Dollars talk. So don't be afraid to think outside on that one too. Goals can change. Okay. Everybody has their annual reviews. They have other things too. Now, if you continuously have goals that you don't modify as more important things come up, you're going to lose a lot of opportunity. Now, you got to be careful of it depending on how your corporate system works. But that is very, very key. Continuous improvement can flourish when you recognize you need better goals than you originally thought of. Now, teams are needed for everything? No, sometimes it really is. Just do it while you're thinking about it and trying to figure out how to solve it. You look and you say, I just need to do this. Just do it, document it, make it happen. Now, this one I've found very powerful in my career is using quality tools on themselves. Have you applied lean methods? One example. Have you applied lean methods to the way you teach lean methods? Have you surveyed people on how to improve your surveys? Have you looked at your corrective action system and done a corrective action on it? Are you using continuous improvement on your methods to update your procedures, your standards? Some of it is, you got to think a little outside of the box on it, but I'm a strong believer in using quality tools to improve existing quality tools is a massive tool. That's one of my most powerful ones I've found over the years. And I challenge anybody, if you haven't done it, try it. And think outside the box in terms of helping charities too. Our ASQ section, for those who've been in the section long enough may already know it, but ASQ has given us a grant twice, both times in economic downturns, where we supplied training in lean methods to over 75 organizations in the Lafayette area. In fact, outside of the Lafayette in one of the cases too. What can you do to help? We did not come up with this idea on our own. A gentleman who was in our section, who was laid off, realized, I need to help people while I'm out. He literally taught lean methods to one of the major charities in Lafayette, and it instantly just about got him another job because they recognized he was really going to take action And that's the kind of person they needed. So he was not out of work hardly at all and was able to help us. And by the way, as a thing I do want to make sure it is known, we did the second time we taught it, actually have it saved and we'll give it to any other areas that ask for it. That was done on purpose because we want to help others. So next time you're asked, is the glass half full or half empty? Remember, there are other options. Says you've built the glass twice as big as you needed to. You know, finance departments loved us. Okay, so now, before any questions, or does anybody want to talk about any of these slides that we have here and bring out some ideas before we go to just a few specific ones where I've got I will bring up a topic. I'm going to take that as a no for now. Okay, so now here I'm looking at twists on traditional methods. As an example, reverse Pareto, where you're looking and saying, why are things small? Any volunteers to kind of get this kick started for ideas? Okay. How are you, what kind of things are you doing in terms of how you solve problems at home that you're not doing here? Let me actually just switch a little bit on that for a minute. Okay.
I think a lot of it for me is just trial and error. Try something, see if it works, and if it doesn't, try something else. I know that kind of goes back to your variable thing with your DOE, but that's what I tend to do a lot. Plus, I also use YouTube a lot to get directions.
Mm-hmm. And then there's one of them that I do all the time at home, and that is while you're trying to solve a problem, how often do you go out to look on Google and watch a video of how to do exactly what it is you have no idea how to do? You know? And the same thing can happen at work the same way. I've done that a million times, where we're trying to see how to do something. And as long as you don't reveal any kind of weaknesses, you're able to already see people are so proud of their products when they do great things. They reveal a lot to you. Take advantage of it. I mean, there's no reason not to watch it. How about some more people? Any ideas, Gene?
Oh, I'm with you guys. Just if you don't have to reinvent the wheel and start at bare basics, you're ahead of the game and closer to your solution. So I like to look at things that have been successful, or like you said, find another resource that's been successful and just piggyback on it and move it quickly to your resolution.
It's a great one. Scott, you got any ideas you want to share on this one?
No, I think you pretty much touched on it. At home, running into a problem, there's a high likelihood that somebody else has run into it before. So, leverage internet and where other people have shared the experiences they've run into and try to leverage previous problem solving.
And I think that's really one of the biggest changes that's happened as I presented this over the last 20 years, multiple times, is the internet now. And you got to be careful with it, as we know. I mean, there's a lot of disinformation too, but there's also so much good information. So as long as you keep on a little bit of a filter on what you're looking at, you got a whole lot of capability there now, and competitively too. I really, if you don't take Consumer Reports their subscription, you might be shocked what it now does. I'm not trying to advertise for them, but I'm impressed with what they've done. They've really taken it to a new level from my own end. Okay. How about in terms of app power? Does anybody have any particular apps that they use in quality? I'm going to bring one up after I hear from other people. Okay, one of them I'm going to bring up as an example. It is actually Reliasoft Corporation, and reliability. The way they decided to sell their products, and a lot of it appears to be to become the information source. They're like the Wikipedia of reliability. Anything you really wanted to get to, links for it, everything you can even imagine is on their website. And they go in on either Weible.com or they'll go in on Reliasoft.com. But you can learn, and they become such a powerful site there that they also at the same time were able to sell a lot more of their own products. So that's an area where there's a lot. How about some completely different ideas now? Anybody have anything on that one that they want to share that you wouldn't be afraid to share? Not looking at any corporate stuff. This is all your own ideas live. A little bit of a quiet audience on this one today, but as far as additional ideas, one thing I am going to say that I think is extremely helpful, and if you haven't tried it before, you should. And that is think of some completely unrelated items for a few seconds. Okay? Completely unrelated to the product. Now, come back and immediately go and actually say, how does that relate to it? And you might be shocked how well it suddenly gets you going. Another one that I'm going to bring up that I kind of toyed on was, about the giraffe. You can look in nature to see how problems were solved. And that's, I can give an example. I've got a fern sitting here a few feet away from me. Never read the instructions before, but it says they like a morning sun. But my guess is, it was as simple as where do they grow best? So looking at where things flourish versus where they fail. Something so simple. Some ideas from other people. Merlin, do you have some things you want to add, or not trying to put you on the spot? Sorry. Or anybody else?
I have something I can add.
Sure.
So I'm a Purdue student. I actually heard about this class from one of my instructors, but I just think about some of the apps that are used to like enhance our quality of life. So you think of the services that focus on our health and well-being, and those could apply to the workplace as well in some cases.
No, that's absolutely a good one. That's a great one. And I think you're hitting something in general, even beyond the web. And that is, as you see things how do they affect your quality of life? Well, wait a minute. Does the same technique work in the quality field? Period. That's a great one. Any other ones before I kind of wrap up tonight's presentation? Alrighty. So I'm going to conclude with saying traditional problem solvings are very powerful. You need to use them widely. However, get innovative. Look at new ideas. I will plead guilty to say that the reason I originally came up with this presentation probably 15 years ago on an older version was I got tired of seeing the same exact kind of things. Realized. So I looked and said, well, there's got to be more than that. So all this thing came from. So I'm saying, go ahead and think outside the box. Chart a new frontier. That's how you can really make some breakthroughs. And problem solving methods, there's an endless variety. And think continuous improvement. And I'm not going to say in just your problem solving methods. Do it at home. Help your family with it too. There's a gentleman on the web. I don't think he uses it quite the same, who's called the Kaizener. That's what he nicknames him stuff. For probably 20 years. I don't know if he's still doing it now. He would show how he was applying Kaizen methods at home, and he had the whole family doing it. And he had the coolest ideas that came from it, as an example. So that's just one example, of how somebody has done some things that have really been powerful. And hope you enjoyed things tonight. And if there's any questions, definitely, whether it's through now or later, really appreciate everybody attending. And I hope you had a little fun with this too, because it's very different. So thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bob.
Thank you.
That was really good. Some things that I had heard before, had thought about, or hadn't even thought about, and just some different ways to attack things. So some very good and powerful information to come out of that. So the challenge to everybody that's been here, watched this, or listened to the recording is to go out and try some of these things and expand on those things as well. See if you can pull something from here and make it even more out of the box than what has already been discussed.
And if you can share it, that's even better. Back to the group.
Definitely. So just some quick cleanup here for the section. To mention again, we will be meeting again, or we'll have another meeting here later in February, working on getting a presenter for that one. And we're finalizing a presenter in March. So if anybody's interested in presenting in either April or May, it will still be virtual. So you could really be anywhere. If it's one of the students that would like to present, we're all open for that. While I'm thinking of students, I will be sending a list of names to Dr. Lau for you so that you get credit for attending the meeting. If you have anything, any questions, comments, or if you would like to talk about presenting or anything, my name is Scott Micklow, and very easily it's scottmicklow@gmail. My email address is on the bottom of the newsletter that got sent out. So we're more than welcome to have you guys come in, present, hear what you have to say, and also hear what you guys would like to hear presented. So does anybody have anything to add tonight? Okay, well, thank you for taking time out of your day to attend this. Be safe, be careful. The snow is still falling where I live. So I don't know if it is where you are, but just stay warm, stay safe. Have a great rest of your week, and look for a newsletter coming out here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.